Hello, everybody. So, this is Mike History 2, and today I will be talking about the Battle of Kosovo. So, after Stefan Dusan, the Emperor of Serbia, died in 1355, he was succeeded by his son Stefan Uroš V, whose reign was characterized by the decline of central power and the rise of many independent countries. Stefan Uroš V was neither able to sustain the empire created by his father nor stop foreign threats and limit the independence of the nobility, and he died childless on December 4th, 1371. He was basically a completely useless ruler. After much of the Serbian nobility had been destroyed by the Ottomans in the Battle of Marica earlier that year, Lazar of Serbia, the Prince of Moravian Serbia, was aware of the Ottoman threat and began preparations for a campaign against them. After the defeat of the Ottomans at Plochnik in 1386 and Bileka in 1388, Murad I, the Ottoman Sultan, moved his troops from Philippopolis, to Itiman in the spring of 1388. From there, they traveled across Velbuzd and Kratovo. Yeah, I'm sure I'm pronouncing everything 100% correct. This led the Ottoman forces to Kosovo, which is another place which totally isn't controversial. Anyways, having stayed in Kratovo for a time, Murad and his troops marched to Pristina, where he arrived on June 14th. Lazar gathered his troops near Niš, and then he learned that Murad had moved to Velbuzd. He moved across Prokuplje to Kosovo. This was the best place he could choose as a battlefield, as it gave him control of all the routes that Murad could take. Murad's army numbered between 27,000 and 40,000 men. These 40,000 included no more than 2,000 janissaries, 2,500 of Murad's cavalry guard, 6,000 sipahis, 20,000 azaps and akinchis, and 8,000 troops from his vassals. The Ottoman army was supported by the forces of the Isfendiyarid Beylik. Lazar's army numbered between 12,000 and 30,000. According to a Yugoslav encyclopedia, there were approximately 30,000 fighters present. 12,000 to 15,000 were under Lazar's command, with 5,000 to 10,000 under Vuk Brankovic, the Lord of Brankovic, and just as many under Vlatko Vukovic, who had been sent by Tvrtko I, the king of Bosnia. Also present were Knights Hospitaller led by John of Polizna. Several thousand were knights. The armies met at the Kosovo field. Murad headed the Ottoman army with his sons Bayezid on his right and Yakub on his left. Around 1,000 archers were in the front line in the wings, backed up by Azab and Akinci. In the front center were janissaries, behind whom was Murad, surrounded by his cavalry guard. Finally, the supply train at the rear was guarded by a small number of troops. One of the Ottoman commanders was Pasha Yigit Bey. The Serbian armies had Prince Lazar at its center, Vuk on the right, and Vlatko on the left. In the front of the army were the heavy cavalry and archer cavalry on the flanks, with the infantry to the rear. Serbian and Ottoman accounts of the battle differ, making it hard to tell what actually happened. It is believed that the battle started with Ottoman archers shooting at the Serbian cavalry, who then made ready for the attack. After positioning in a wedge formation, the Serbian cavalry managed to break through the Ottoman left wing, but were not as successful against the center and right wing. The Serbs had the initial advantage after their first charge, which significantly damaged the Ottoman wing commanded by Yakub Çelebi. When the Knights' charge was finished, light Ottoman cavalry and light infantry counterattacked, and the Serbian heavy armor became a disadvantage. In the center, Serbian troops managed to push back Ottoman forces, except for Bayezid's wing, which barely held off the forces commanded by Vlatko Vukovic. Vukovic thus inflicted disproportionately heavy losses on the Ottomans. The Ottomans, in a ferocious counterattack led by Bayezid, pushed the Serbian forces back, and then prevailed later in the day, routing the Serbian infantry. Both flanks still held, and Vukovic's drifting towards the center to compensate for the heavy losses inflicted on the Serbian army. Vuk Brankovic saw that there was no hope for victory and fled to save as many men as he could after Lazar was captured. Sometime after Brankovic's retreat from the battle, the remaining Bosnian and Moravian Serb forces yielded the field, believing that victory was no longer possible. As the battle turned against the Serbs, Miloš Obilić pretended to have deserted to the Ottoman forces. When brought before Murad, Obilić pulled out a hidden dagger and killed the Sultan by slashing him, after which the Sultan's bodyguards immediately killed him. Both armies were annihilated in the battle, and both Lazar and Murad lost their lives. We have to admit, though, that Serbian guy, he was brave. And the remnants of their armies eventually retreated from the battlefield. Murad's son Bayezid strangled his younger brother Yakub Çelebi upon hearing that their father had died, thus becoming the only heir to the Ottoman throne. The Serbs were left with too few men to defend their lands effectively, while the Ottomans had many more troops in the east. Consequently, the Serbian countries that were not already Ottoman vassals became so in the following years, yielding one by one. Furthermore, in response to Ottoman pressure, some Serbian noblemen married their daughters, including the daughter of Lazar, to Bayezid. But if you think that's how the Battle of Kosovo ended, you are wrong, because there was another Battle of Kosovo later on. So in 1448, John Hunyadi, the Ispan of Temes, and the regent of Hungary saw the right moment to lead a campaign against the Ottoman Sultanate. After the defeat at the Battle of Varna, he raised another army to attack the Ottomans. His strategy was based on an expected revolt of the Balkan people, a surprise attack, and the destruction of the main Ottoman forces in a single battle. In September 1448, Hunyadi led the Hungarian forces across the Danube River and camped them in Serbia next to Kovan. For a month, the Hungarians were encamped there awaiting the German crusaders, the Wallachian Duke, as well as the Bohemian and Albanian army. The Albanian army under Skanderbeg did not participate in the battle, as he was prevented from linking with Hunyadi's army by the Ottomans and their allies. It is believed that he was delayed by Serbian despot Durad Branković, then allied with Sultan Murad II. As a result, Skanderbeg ravaged Serbia as punishment for deserting the Christian cause. Branković didn't care much about the trespassing and negotiated the terms of joining the crusade against the Ottomans over that period of time. Hunyadi had told Branković that he had brought 20,000 of his own men, awaiting more reinforcements, and that Branković, with his light cavalry, was the only ally necessary to make this a decisive victory. Branković was weary, having had his own country restored after a full-scale Ottoman occupation only back in 1444, and fully aware of the strength of the Ottoman military force, wanted to keep his throne. Branković was also unwilling to set himself under Hunyadi's command under any condition, as he personally disliked him, considering him inferior. The central point of the dispute between Hunyadi and Branković was their personal feud. After the Peace of Szeged in 1444, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that correctly as well, Serbia became a vassal of the Ottoman Sultanate, agreeing to pay 50,000 florins and contributing 4,000 cavalry at a call to arms. For Hunyadi and Vladislav, the despot offered all his Hungarian land to agree to the peace. Hunyadi didn't give much credit to any deals with the Ottomans, while Branković saw this as a chance for peace and prosperity for Serbia, so the peace was struck, and Branković left Hungary to Smederevo. Later that year, the Crusader army wished to reach Adrianople through Serbia and Bulgaria, but Branković didn't allow them to go through his land. As the Crusaders knew that the Venetian fleet could only blockade the straits at Marmara for a short period of time, they chose the Danube route, but Hunyadi deemed the despot crazy for thinking that Murad gave him back his entire country permanently, and promised Branković to set Serbia on fire when they returned. After the Battle of Varna, Hunyadi spent 1445 solving internal affairs. In 1446 he had to campaign in Styria against Ulrich of Kelje, and in 1447 he put down an Ottoman-friendly Wallachian revolt. In 1448, the time had come for another crusade and another chance for the despot to redeem himself. But yet again he was denied passage and asked help from the Ottomans. Well, he denied them passage and asked help from the Ottomans instead. The Crusaders, numbering 22,000 to 30,000, arrived at Kosovo Field, the site of the Battle of Kosovo, which I mentioned like 4 minutes ago, in 1389 that I talked about. And this had been between Serbs and Ottomans, where they had faced an Ottoman army of up to 60,000. So this time Sultan Murad personally commanded a large section of cannons and janissaries, while the son and successor Mehmed, who faced battle for the first time, led the Anatolian troops at the right wing. Hunyadi commanded the center of his army in the battle, while the Crusaders' right wing was under the Wallachians. The Hungarians had long barrage cannons. The next day the battle started when Hunyadi attacked the Ottoman flanks with his cavalry. The Ottoman flanks, consisting of soldiers from Rumelia and Anatolia, were losing until Ottoman light cavalry arrived to reinforce them. The Christian flanks were subsequently routed and the survivors retreated back to Hunyadi's main force. When Hunyadi saw the defeat of his flanks, he attacked with his main force, composed mostly of knights and light infantry. The Janissary Corps were not successful, and the cavalry made progress through the Ottoman center, but were stopped at the Ottoman camp. When the main attack was halted, the Ottoman infantry regrouped and successfully drove the Hungarian knights back. The light cavalry, who were now without the knight's support, were also overcome. Hungarian forces retreated to their camp. During the retreat, the Janissaries killed most of the Hungarian nobles. Hunyadi fled, but was later captured by the Serbs. During the night, Ottoman infantry fired missiles at the Hungarians, who replied with cannons. On the next day, a final assault destroyed the remaining Hungarian army. The Christian Balkan states were unable to resist the Ottomans after this defeat, eventually falling under control of the Ottoman Sultanate. After the battle, Hunyadi was captured by Brankovic, who did not release him until a ransom of 100,000 florins. The return of the land that Hunyadi had taken from Brankovic and the engagement of Hunyadi's heir to Brankovic's daughter were agreed upon. For the remainder of his reign, Hunyadi successfully defended Hungary against Ottoman campaigns. Skanderbeg also successfully continued his resistance in Albania until his death in 1468. But 10 years later, the country was conquered by the Ottoman Sultanate. And so that was it, guys, the two battles of Kosovo, because there were actually two of them. Anyways, I hope you liked this. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.